Hello everyone, it's Kurgan here again, back with some more MechWarrior Online talk. Now the previous video I did for this was just showing basically an introduction to the game. I hadn't played much at that point, and I've played more now, and I'm really enjoying it, so I figure I'm going to do a few more videos to cover that, and I was going to do one on weapon hotkeys, but they just released a new build for the game 2 days ago, and I figured that I would rather do coverage on this and then do the hotkeys later on. So the new build version is 1.0.134, and it has some pretty big changes to it. You can see that they're really trying to polish up the closed beta build and get ready for that open beta that they had planned to do. So there's some new items, 3 new items, some item changes to ones that have already been in the game. There is a lot of UI changes. The whole launcher has got, well, the beginning of it has a new look, and then there's some new tabs. There is gameplay changes, and there is economy changes. So I'm just going to go over those and we'll just work our way through. Now, there's 3 new items, like I said. The first one is ferrofibrous armor. Now, there's 2 options when it comes to armor. There's standard and there's ferrofibrous. The ferrofibrous armor gives you more survivability and it's lighter, so it's got 2 benefits there, but it does cost critical space. So you know, you got to decide what's better. The more survivability and lighter is obviously awesome, but if you don't got the critical space, it's a deal breaker. And then the next one is endosteel internal structure, and this frees up weight on your mech. That tonnage is super important, so once again, that's a great thing to have. But just like ferrofibrous, it takes up critical space, so you just got to watch that. Double heat sinks is something that I have been waiting for, and they've finally got them in. And it doubles the heat dissipation on your mech, which is amazing because everybody hates just sitting there waiting for your heat to go down. The more heat sinks you have, the better, in my opinion. But it's tonnage. It adds on weight, so that's not good. And it also takes up 3 times the amount of critical space. So it's got some pretty big downfalls. It's something that you're going to have to decide. I don't know. I don't know if I'll end up running it simply because of that. Now, on to some of the item changes. There are 4 items in the game. Engine heat sinks. Now, engines with a rating of 275 or greater can contain 1 or more heat sinks inside them without taking up critical slots. So that's interesting. It's a way you can dissipate some heat, but you have to have the engine to do it. So that's something to keep in mind. And the number of heat sinks that the engine can hold has no bearing on what your mech has. Double heat sinks or single heat sinks. So your engine could have 2, and your mech maybe only has 1. They're not connected in any sort of way. Now we'll move on to the upgrades tab. Since there's some new items, they decided to add this upgrade tab, and it basically just allows you to switch between these items. The ferrofibrous armor is in there. And it's, like I said, you have the option between standard and ferro, and the ferro takes up 14 critical slots. So if you use the standard, it obviously takes up none. And same thing with the endosteel internal structure. That takes up 14 critical slots. That's another thing you can switch to in there. But the standard one takes up none. So if you got the slots, use them. Now, there's been some gameplay changes as well. Some of them are minor, some of them are a little bit larger. Like this one here, running into another mech no longer knocks it down. I kind of hope they decide to change that. I think it's something that should be in game. I mean, these things are big mechs. They're not going to be perfectly agile, so it's interesting that they decided just to say no longer knocks down. I think that it was overused. I can see why they did it, but hopefully, it's still in closed beta. There's a long time to go till release. Hopefully they decide to maybe mess with that a little bit and make some sort of rhyme or reason and make it work. Because I would like to see it in, personally. I think they should be able to fall down. They're huge. And this one's huge in my opinion, because it's a line of sight check. Before, you had to have over 50% of your mech visible over any sort of object in order to be targeted. That's a lot. I mean, 50% is a really big amount. Now it's only 25%. So those long-range mechs that were dependent on zooming in and sniping and just peeking over that hill to shoot you, now they can be locked onto, rather than just you being like, well, there's nothing I can really do. It makes them have to think more about what they're doing. So I think that that's great. They also added a picture-in-picture to the zoom module. That's not a huge change. Like I said, there's some small changes. I mean, it's nice, and I think it's just a cool factor. So it's a small change in my opinion. They also added your current vision mode status in your HUD. Another small change. It's nice though because there's 3 vision modes. You know, you got the normal mode, and then you've got night vision, and then you've got heat signature mode. So I mean, you should know what you're in, but it's kind of for immersion. I mean, you should feel like you're in the mech, so kind of cool. And they also extended the rangefinder. Before it was only 1,500 meters that the rangefinder would go to. Now it goes up to 2,500. So if you got somebody way back there and you know you're toggling through your vision modes, you see their heat signature, you can judge, you know, if you want to take that shot. I mean, 2,500 meters, there's no real point in taking that shot, but at least you'll know how far away they are and maybe can determine how much time it's going to take them to get to the battle. I don't think the maps are too much bigger than 2,500 meters though. That is a long ways. And then we have the cockpit light. That'll now flicker when you take hard hits, so I don't think that was really necessary. Once again, it's more of an immersion factor. It's kind of cool, you know, feel like you're actually in the mech. And then there's some changes to do with weapons and how they work with water. The AC, the gauze, and the PPC type weapons will now pass through water, but they do a reduced amount of damage depending on the depth of the hit. Same with lasers. But I think that they mentioned these in 2 different notes, so I'm assuming they have a different algorithm on how the damage is determined, because they're different types. You know, a laser passing through water is probably going to get a larger damage reduction compared to the other weapon types. There is one that does stand out: explosions. They do not pass through water, so keep that in mind. I'm not sure. I haven't seen really any waterfalls or anything like that, but if there are some in game, or there are some later on when they add in more maps, that's something that could be huge. You know, you could duck behind a waterfall if you know somebody's shooting an explosive at you, and it'll hit that water, and that'll be it. So it's an interesting mechanic. And then we got 2 more changes left for the gameplay. That is smoother jump jetting behavior. I haven't got a huge chance to use these, so I'm not sure if it was a problem. I did use them once and it seemed fine, but I'm sure that the people who use those more often will probably be pretty appreciative of that change. And this last one is one that I think is pretty important because I have noticed it a bit, is weapon hit detection. It's now more in line with where you see the mech on your screen. You won't have to lead the target as much. I noticed before with lasers that you would have to lead your target sometime, and a laser should be a pretty instant thing, so this should be a pretty nice change. It should be hopefully more dead on. You won't have to lead at all, I would hope, almost, so pretty nice to see that. Now, the last thing, and I think that this is great to see some of this, is economy changes, because that means that they're getting ready to bring this game more public, more people in it, because these are the changes that are really going to matter. To have the economy set perfectly is very important, because otherwise people will not play your game. They've standardized now the MC to C-bill pricing, which is huge. They've also lowered engine prices, but overall item prices have increased. So it's kind of interesting. But basically what they've wanted to have happen is they wanted you to be able to see where the money in your mech has gone. You should now be able to add up the parts in your mech and say, this is how much my mech is. It should be very close. So it'll help you distinguish instead of having that space like afterwards. Before, you'd add them up and go, well, there's some extra money. Where's this value at? They have made a chart to show the price of mechs now and the items in them, but it's a really small resolution chart, and I'm going to throw it in the description. If you want to try and read it, go ahead. It is readable, but it's just you're going to have to squint a little bit. And about that chart now, since I mentioned it, is the overall MC cost for mechs is now much lower than it was before, so that's cool. But specialized mechs with specialized equipment, those are going to stand out. Those are going to be pricey, and you're going to know. I mean, they're not going to all blend in together now. Yeah, that's it for the patch. I plan to do a few more videos in the game, cover some weapon systems and the hotkeys for those, so check back later for that. And thanks for watching. Please comment. I love to see comments, so also like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.